Getting the world famous original big game breakdown started here with Texas A&M's trip up to Notre Dame. Before we get to our latest Marcel Reed update, Tom, what are we going to get from Notre Dame? Listen, the college football season at this point, because we're just throwing ourselves into it and overreacting to every little bit. When a team takes week 2 off, I come back and I'm like, man, where have the Fighting Irish been? They are 0-1. Officially in the ledger, but no one is panicking about this team given the opponent that they played, the way that the game went. So what do you think we're going to see from Notre Dame after getting a week off in the wake of the loss to Miami?
I've got no idea. I mean, this is like, we only have the one data point to really go off of, and they were facing a defense that looks really, really good through their first 2 games. So it's like, you don't know how much of the results that we saw against Miami are actual problems with Notre Dame, or it was just, man, we played a really dang good team and we didn't play great on the road. Because Notre Dame now currently ranks 117th in EPA per dropback. That's not great. So, like, you're going up against A&M. I don't know that you're going to be able to just drop back and run the ball against them, especially because you really couldn't run the ball against Miami. Like, Jeremiah Love did not have a great game. Their running game was outside of, I think, like 1 drive, if I remember correctly. They really struggled to move the ball on the ground consistently. So I need to see if this offense with CJ Carr can show a little bit better balance, can show an ability to move the ball, because we can say from what we have seen of Texas A&M's defense through the first 2 games, I do think there's some vulnerability there, because A&M only ranks 62nd nationally in pass EPA per dropback, despite the fact that they've played UTSA and New Mexico, or who was it? Was it New Mexico or no? Utah State. Sorry, I got Broncos team wrong.
State, right coach, wrong team.
Yeah. So I don't know. And also, my concern is that offensive line. Will they be able to protect CJ Carr? Because they were very much overwhelmed by Miami's defensive front in that game. And this is an A&M team that gets a lot of pressure on teams so far, despite the fact that they're not blitzing. Like, they blitz enough, but they're not a heavy blitz team. They're mostly dropping back into coverage, getting pressure with their front. And that's worked to a degree. They're giving up yards, but they're not really giving up a ton of explosive plays. And I'm wondering if you're Mike Elko, because you are facing CJ Carr, who is now in his 2nd career start, do you blitz a little more? Do you get a bit more aggressive to see if he can, read things quickly enough before the snap and get the ball out on time before you get there, maybe force some mistakes? Because I do think that if you look at the Irish, there are a lot of questions we have about this offense that just haven't been answered. And the fact that they're starting their season with Miami and Texas A&M, 2 teams who are legit college football playoff contenders, we might have to wait another week before we ever really start getting any answers as to what this Notre Dame offense is.
I mostly agree with Tom there. I think when you look at the lines of scrimmage in this game, Notre Dame is worse on both lines of scrimmage than they were last year. A&M is worse on the defensive line of scrimmage than they were last year. I think A&M is better on the offensive line now that Fathery is back at left tackle. So, ultimately, I don't think A&M's defense has been anything special this year. They're okay. They're not as good as they were last year, in my opinion. Notre Dame, I think this is going to be really interesting. Miami blocked them all day. Like, Miami's offensive line dominated in that ball game. Like, I think Miami
which might be Miami.
Might be.
No, I mean, Miami's got 3 for sure draft picks on that line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the potential for a 4th. So, yeah, Miami's offensive line is on the very short list for the best in the country. But I do think Notre Dame is very blockable on the defensive interior. I think their edge guys do have some juice. So we'll have to watch, how that works. But, I mean, ultimately, Miami could block them. You know who else is on the short list for the best offensive line in the country? I think A&M. I fully think A&M can block Notre Dame here. The question is, so these young receivers for the Aggies have been playing really, really well, but they've also played defenses that just can't cover anybody. Mm-hmm. Utah State can't cover. Texas State put up almost 50 on UTSA. So they've played 2 really horrific defenses so far from the lower level. Notre Dame typically can cover. Now, I don't think their corners had the best game against Miami. But different kind of receivers. We'll see. I do think that there's a chance that Marcel has good looks in this game. If Notre Dame leaves their corners one-on-one, I think I think there's a chance that A&M's guys can win those. And I'm also curious, like, how much zone do you get? Because Reed is legitimately a pretty good runner and a good scrambler. And like, do you want to play a bunch of man against these wideouts, or do you want to play a little more zone and hit them and make them sit down and not play chase with a bunch of guys who are pretty small? So I'm really interested to see how they play it. Like, this is a fun stylistic matchup.
Yeah, and it like to the A&M offense, I don't know that we know who they are yet, or at least I don't believe that what we've seen is who A&M wants to be, as much as they've just kind of been that way, maybe because they're saving some stuff, because this is a team that you would think with their personnel and offense, they would lean more into the run game. But through 2 games, they've been more pass heavy. They ranked 91st in rushing rate nationally at 47.8%. Although they've been better running the ball as far as EPA is concerned, where they rank 30th and they're 50th in passing EPA. So is like their actual philosophy to have Marcel Reed dropping back to pass that often? Or is this just been like a, hey, we're facing 2 teams with terrible secondaries, so we're just going to be able to pick it apart with our guys? Because like Notre Dame, they were like 50-50 zone man against Miami, which is much more balanced than they typically were last year, especially when man heavy. But they were torn apart when they were in man against Miami. So do we see them go more zone? And Bud, you mentioned it, like their pass rush against Miami, they rank 133rd in pressure rate after only 1 game, obviously, but there was just no pressure. And Chip, you want to say something. So what do you want to say?
Well, I've got a proposal. I've got something that I'd like to pitch to you, that maybe Texas A&M in these first 2 games has been wanting to build that chemistry, because Mario Craver was at Mississippi State last year. Short little boy who can scoot, not that big. Casey Concepcion, big time weapon, right? So they've been moving him all around too. It is not a straight line, big bodied receiver. It is versatile weapons. And I wonder if, because of course KC was at NC State, and just because they're new, I think that there might have been, instead of leaning heavy on Le'Veon Moss and Reuben Owens and the run game, I wonder if some of the goals for this offense was to make sure that we really start to build chemistry, find out what works, because the other piece of having weapons and versatile pieces, sometimes you don't have that like bread and butter. You don't know it's like, wow, these guys are really talented. What is the play? Like, what are the routes? What are the concepts that work the best for these players and our quarterback? That's a theory, just something to propose, at least to explain why Texas A&M has been sort of playing the way that they have.
If you're the Irish, do you just turn around and hand the ball off?
Yes, that's what I think.
Like, so. Even if the look doesn't dictate that it's a great run look, you're like, hey, man, like you are so much better than anyone else on our offense. We trust you to run and be good against somewhat, like obviously not terrible looks, but against unfavorable looks. I think I'd rather have Jeremiah Love against an unfavorable look than this Irish passing game against good looks. Also, I think Carr is going to have a lot more time in this game. Miami's D-line is good. We heard about this at the symposium. They were way better than I thought. Like, they kicked Notre Dame's ass up front on both sides. And like, that's, I know Notre Dame's not as good this year up front, and Miami's pretty damn good. I don't think you've seen anything from the Aggies so far that says that they can do that to the Irish. So I do think Carr is going to have a lot more time to operate.
I do. That's why I kind of think that A&M might blitz more than we've seen, just because they haven't felt the need to have to blitz against UTSA and Utah State, whereas maybe to generate pressure on Notre Dame, they're going to have to do it. But going back to Notre Dame's defense, I do wonder if you'll see more of the zone this week because of the matchup. Like, Marcel Reed has not really been used as a runner much so far in these first 2 games. If you're playing a lot of man and you're not getting pressure and you're covering guys, that's going to give Marcel Reed a lot of room to operate and just kind of take off for yards and keep drives going, which will be a pain in the ass, which will wear on your defense. So at least if you're in zone, you could possibly take some of that away. And on the flip side, if you look at A&M's offensive performance on a whole so far, it is very explosive. It is not what I would call down-to-down exceptional. Like, they have gone 3 and out on a third of their possessions. Like, they aren't playing great down-to-down football. They've only reached the red zone 22.2% of the time on the red zone on their possessions, which ranks 105th. And for fun, they've scored 11 touchdowns. You know what the average distance of the 11 touchdowns is?
Was it like
21
20?
yards.
Oh, 21. Yeah.
21 yards. So it's like they're scoring on big plays. And it's like if you're Notre Dame and you drop back into zone more and you kind of hem Marcel Reed in and you take away the big plays, can this Aggies offense do against you what it really hasn't shown an ability to do against UTSA and Utah State yet?
Notre Dame's got athletic linebackers too. I mean, I would not have them turning their backs to Marcel Reed as opposed to trying to take away his ability to scramble and make you pay on those extend the drive type downs.
I would agree. It's special teal season in Indiana right now for duck hunting, and good play callers find the duck. Right? We saw Bill O'Brien do this. They were hunting number 5 all day in coverage for Michigan State. Miami figured out that Notre Dame's nickel can't cover anything, and they went at that guy. Whoever, I don't know his name. They went at him repeatedly. I am curious because I do think I'm interested in how A&M decides to formation these guys, because like Mario Craver's 5'9", 165.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing man, I want Craver on that Notre Dame slot all day. I think he will eat him alive, just like Malachi Toney did. So I think that probably indicates a little more zone.
Man, fun game.
Yeah,
really, really fun game. Narrative bowl. Let's go Vibes. That's enough tape talk for everybody. Vibes here. What happens for Notre Dame if they're 0-2? Are they out of the college football playoff?
Yes.
No.
I think the rest of their schedule's falling apart other than USC.
But if Notre Dame goes 10-2, do you really think they're going to get left out of the college football playoff?
I do.
For who?
A 4th SEC team, a 4th Big Ten team, or a 2nd ACC team if it's Florida State, Miami. Or you got to acknowledge the bottom of the Big 12 really sucks. There's a real chance you could get like 12-0 against 11-1 Big 12. And obviously, if the 11-1 beats 12-0, they're not going to leave out a 12-1 Big 12 team. But I think this is an elimination game. Look who else is on this schedule.
But you're saying you think USC is really good. You said on the show yesterday you think they're the 4th best team in the Big Ten. So Notre Dame beats them. They beat Boise State, who looks like a team that's going to finish 10-2 if they lose to Notre Dame.
I don't think Boise State is going to be a good win on a resume because of the fact that USC dumped USF dumped.
They'll be ranked by the college football playoff. So you're going to have those 2 ranked wins if they're as good as USC thinks it is, and Boise State likely finishes 10-2.
You think at 10-2 Boise's ranked?
They're going to be 10-2.
I don't think the committee is under any pressure to rank a team from the G5 unless it does so to justify its placement of another G5 team. You know what I'm saying?
They might be the best G5 team. I know they lost to USF, but it's not like USF is going to finish 11-1 guaranteed. They could lose to Miami this week, and they could lose another couple games.
Yeah, but I don't think that they're going to let them climb out of getting smacked by USF with how bad the Mountain West has been.
But if they're 10-2 and they've won the Mountain West, are we guaranteed that the American Conference champion is going to be ranked higher than them?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as the American Conference champion is 3 losses or less. Now, if it's like some weird wonky, like 8-4 versus 10-2, but I would take American Conference champ -1 loss column over Mountain West champ for the playoff.
If Notre Dame,
because you get Memphis and you get Tulane as well in that league.
Mm-hmm.
If Notre Dame starts 0-2, it is. I think Joe said in the tailgate earlier, they don't control it anymore.
No.
This just at that point, I do not think that you are a lock that is out. I'm not ready to go that far because we could have a chaos season. If the great flattening in college football continues, we might have the kind of chaos season where 10-2 is one of the best records in the country. Okay. So I'm not ready to rule them out, but they just don't control anything. They would need to win 10 games in a row and get help in the way of chaos if they're going to be able to do it. Because I agree with your premise, Bud. I do not think that a 10-2 schedule against a 10-2 record against this schedule is going to be like, man, that is one of the best resumes in the country. But 10-2 with a good USC and some chaos elsewhere, then that might be it. Ultimately, these things do not happen in a vacuum. They're all dependent on what's going on around you.
I think one of the issues here is, if we pull the schedule back up for the Irish,
we got to wait for the ad to finish.
Who's the second best win?
The second best?
Like an 8-4, 7-5 Pitt team?
I mean,
Boston College is not projected to make a bowl. Syracuse is not projected to make a bowl, right? NC State is not projected to make a bowl, although
what?
I think they
No. Whoa. You're talking about Diamond Dave? Have you seen Diamond Dave unleash CJ Bailey? I mean, the Wolfpack might be 3-0 by Friday morning. Okay? That's halfway to bowl eligibility before September the 13th.
I think a 10-2 Notre Dame gets it. The only thing is, if they lose this game, they have absolutely no margin of error left.
Yeah, and ultimately also, are they going to win 10? Are we just going to say they're like, oh yeah, the team that started 0-2, they're definitely just going to win 10 games in a row where not 8 of them are against power conference opponents, 4 of them are on the road, and the non-power conference opponents that you're playing, Boise State and Navy, are both conference title contenders. So
that's
there's the other issue too of like, okay, you got to go win those 10 games in a row to be able to do it. And if you start 0-2, then it might not be in the cards. But I do think it's a huge game.
Do I think they can finish 10-2 if they lose this week? No. But if they do, they're in.
Yeah. And then Texas A&M just has so many massive games coming up that I don't think that – I think Texas A&M can lose this game and still work its way back to an at-large bid to the college football playoff. Resume-wise. Now, whether they've got the dudes to go do it would be in question depending on how the game goes.
I mean, this is definitely not an elimination game for A&M.
Correct. Yeah.
Some of the teams on the A&M schedule look a lot better than they did preseason. LSU, probably Auburn, if you want to classify that. Missouri for sure. And some of them look worse. Like South Carolina looks way worse than I think a lot of their fans thought they were going to look. And Texas, looks somewhat worse because Arch is just not lighting it on fire.